All right. Hello, everybody. It is Thursday, March 18th. Happy belated St. Patrick's Day. This is the March public meeting of the ANC 5E Zoning and Development Committee. We have about 15 people in attendance tonight, and there's a few items already on the agenda. There's one for a planned development at 1001 18th Street Northeast. There is also a BZA case for presentation on behalf of 1350 Queen Street Northeast, DC. That's BZA case 20275. I think the discussion for 18th Street might take a while, and I think it should take a while. So I think what I'd like to do, unless there's any objections, is I'd like to, if Jennifer Brown is in attendance. Jennifer, are you in? Oh yeah, you are. Yeah.
Yep.
I'd like to have Jennifer introduce her project first, because I think maybe we can. That one may not be too complicated, and maybe we can get that done, and that way we can then devote a lot of the rest of the time to 18th Street.
That sounds great. Are you ready for me?
Yep.
Okay. Is it okay if I share my screen? I made a little presentation. It'll take about 10 minutes.
Absolutely.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Okay. I don't know what you're seeing right now.
I'm not seeing anything yet.
Okay, let me go back to you.
But it wouldn't surprise me if I needed to click another button on Zoom here to allow presentations.
Host disabled.
Oh, I think I need to promote you to a co-host.
Oh, okay.
Let me do this. Make co-host. All right, you should now be able to present.
There we go. All right, are you seeing my screen?
We did. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
And if you could keep this,
right,
can you keep this I'm not showing any slides. You think you can keep it to like
10 minutes?
5 to 10 minutes, no more than 10 minutes.
No more than 10, I promise.
No more than, well,
okay.
Yeah.
It's short. Okay, as short as I can make it.
Yes.
Five-ish.
Great.
Okay. Our application has been going on for about a year. I'm not sure how long this normally takes. We started March of last year as a special exception. There were some new text amendments. COVID hit, and then there were some new text amendments that happened and pushed us out to August. We had a hard time getting some DCRA memos, so we had to reschedule our December meeting, which put us at March. And there was a new text amendment March 5th, so we had to redo our burden of proof and our DCRA memo, which has happened. But forward we marched to our April 14th BZRA meeting. A little bit about the owners. They both have lived on Queen Street in the 60s and 70s as children and teenagers, and when they got married, they knew they wanted to be business owners in that area. So when a 4-unit building came available in 2007, they hurried and purchased it, and they've helped countless tenants have affordable housing in a neighborhood that they love. They've maintained it like their home. And prior to this application, they haven't had any structural changes to the exterior of the apartment home. What we're seeking is relief from a lot area requirement. It's currently on 2 lots, 57 and 58, which are both 1818 square feet. And they're changing a 4-unit building to adding 1 unit to a 5-unit building. So to meet the lot requirement, 5 units at 900 square feet would be 4,500 square feet, and we only have 3636. So there's an 864 square foot variance. In the basement of that building, there's 1,100 square feet, 825 of which is pretty underutilized because what's down there is just some storage and the utilities. So the 2 units are going to be resized into 1 lot to accommodate the load change from 4 units to 5 units. And there will also be, after the BZA approval, the certificate of occupancy will also be amended to 4 to 5 units. And the plat will be also combining lots 57 and 58 into 1 lot. We know that it's a desirable community, and The owners just want to provide affordable housing to as many people as possible. I will add here that the average rent in the building is $987 a month, and the lowest is $861 per month. What they're proposing in this empty space here, as you can see, is just utilities and whatnot. And it's built out into 2 bedrooms. These are the 2 bedrooms and these are the 2 baths, and the utilities and whatnot will all be housed here in this mechanical room. Much more efficient use of space. This is just an expanded plan which goes into the egress windows, which are here on the front of the building. This is the only part of the plan that will change the structure, because these 2 egress open areas will protrude into the front of the building, but it's on the owner's property, of course. So the burden of proof is, of course, it's 3-part, and it asks, is this an exceptional situation? It is an exceptional situation because, number one, this is an interior conjoined building. There's no available land to buy. The property was also constructed in 1945, and it conforms to the, well, conforms to the non-conforming adoption of the zoning plans in 1958. So it makes it kind of a special exception in that respect. Also, would there be practical difficulties? Well, yes. When the building was constructed in 1940, that's when the lot area was established. But of course, there was no sliding scale to account for development. If the applicants had to add on 864 square feet, they'd have to buy land from the owners and go through negotiations and costly purchase that would probably not be in relation to the scope of the project to add 1 unit. It would also create irregular property lines, which would encroach into other neighbors, straight line property line that currently exist. There's a possible security issue because if it remains empty, it could be a possible attractive nuisance because it's on the lower level of the building with the highest visibility from the alleyway. And so the purpose of the variance relief is really to prevent unusable space from remaining idle. Lastly, it's not going to cause any detriment to the public impairment or the zone plan. So there's no compromise to neighbors' light, air, privacy, enjoyment. We're not changing or altering any part of the building or scale of the neighboring houses. The purpose and intent of the property remains the same. The parking space in the back, there are 4 dedicated spaces which exceed the DCMR guidelines for a 5-unit property. And the adjoining sides and the rear of the building do not change. So it remains in compliance with the zoning regulations. This is just a picture of the front of the building, the 4 units that are up top. These are the 2 basement units that will have the egress windows. The back of the house, these are the stairs that enter into that, which would enter into the bottom 5th level. And you can see the 4 parking spaces. Hope I'm not going too fast.
No. And so you're not going up or you're not going back? You're only talking about doing work in the basement?
That is correct. Yes.
So, I don't want to cut you off, but this seems like a really easy, I would just assume this seems, I can't imagine anybody complaining about this. Can I just quickly ask, because we've got, I think, 3 or 4 ANC commissioners in attendance. Do any of the ANC commissioners have any concerns or worries about this project?
I don't.
Yeah, and I know the commissioner for this is 5D07, the address, which is Commissioner Cobb's. So honestly, this seems like a really good use, and I'm surprised you're not adding a floor and going back. Like I can't imagine any of the neighbors. Now, will there be some underpinning? I assume to get the ceiling height.
There's already ceiling height that's down there that actually is above code. Strangely enough, it just had a very high ceiling.
Yeah.
So it is ready to go in terms of the height requirements for the basement.
Okay. And when is your BZA case? Like, I believe you were at the very end of last the ANC meeting. We just ran out of time, and I know it's your hope to return to the ANC to get a vote. When is your BZA hearing?
It is April 14th.
April 14th.
Wednesday, April 14th.
And when is the next ANC hearing?
Yours is the 13th.
Okay. So, I mean, obviously, we're not going to prejudge anything by saying, but I think is really, I think it's like, I mean, I will let the ANC speak for themselves. Commissioner, the chairperson of the ANC is with us. Do you think this is something that is likely to be approved at the next ANC meeting? Supported, I should say.
I would say so. I mean, it seems very straightforward to me.
Yeah. So we can just try to get the ANC report drafted ahead of time. That way, it's just a matter of putting a date on it. And that way, someone doesn't have to stay up until midnight submitting it on the 13th. We can get it in minutes after we can almost, yeah. But I mean, this is a great presentation, and I don't think anyone, your neighbors are going to be concerned. And I think you're adding, they're increasing the use for the house, and it's great.
And to add that, I do have 14 letters in support from the neighbors, 4 from the tenants, and 10 from neighbors and owners.
Okay. And those are including the adjoining?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Cool. This may be one of the most agreeable BCA cases I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Well, more of this, please. More of this.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, all right. If you want to stop sharing,
I will. Yes.
We'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Let me have a look. How do I do this?
Do you need me to stay on the meeting going forward?
I will just no. You're more than welcome to attend, but we're going to move on to another item.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody. So the next item on the agenda is a proposed development at 1001 18th Street Northeast. And I know we have several neighbors, commissioners have attended here to hear about this this evening. Just to give people a real quick summary, and I might even try to do a screen share if I can do this. I'm just going to share my entire desktop. Are we seeing this? My screen?
Yep.
Okay, got it. So the address is 1801.
Or 1001.
1001 18th Street. And let me see if I can move these things down here. And it is currently it is a 4-unit building on 18th Street Northeast. It's on the corner. And just to give you some perspective, there it is right there. And it is kind of across the street here from Aldi on Maryland Ave. And a developer has issued a neighbor notification letter to the neighbors next door, letting them know about their project. They have not yet, as of a few minutes ago, we checked DCRA Scout website. They have not received permits yet for the building. They have received the permit for the demolition. I believe they've started the demolition. But what they are proposing is to replace this with a 20-unit apartment building with 2 parking spaces. And just to give you a quick summary, I'll try to drag my own notes up here on screen. We have, there's 20 units total. There's 4 studios. There's 9 1-bedrooms, and there are 7 2-bedroom units. And we have a copy of the plans here provided to us by one that were forwarded by the neighbor. I'm going to zoom down here quick so people can just get an idea of, and I can zoom into the floor plans here, but from the front, they're adding basically a side addition. It's currently a 2-story building, so they're adding 2 full stories and then a setback, another 3rd story. So going up to, can't quite read the height on the building, but let's just say they're probably adding about 30 feet to the building height. And these plans also are having them add a 11.5-foot at minimum front addition. So I'm jumping back to Google here. They're effectively proposing to go all the way to the sidewalk on the street. So that's the real quick summary. And I will try to give you some views of what the interior floor plans are like. I think this is the cellar floor unit. So when you walk in, things are quite compact. They're definitely squeezing units in here. There's a two bedroom, one bedroom, one 2-bedroom, and a studio. It's a cellar floor plan. This is the first floor plan. I think I've got a 1-bedroom here, a 1-bedroom in this area. They have a 1-bedroom here and a 1-bedroom. So everything on the first floor is 1-bedrooms. The second story, we've got a 1-bedroom here, 1-bedroom, another lots of 1-bedrooms. I think as we go up, we get more two bedrooms here. There's a 1-bedroom here, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom here, another studio in this corner. So that's the general. And again, they've got 2 parking spaces, and it doesn't. And I don't see any real room for, honestly, trash or like dumpsters. It's a 20-unit building, and I can't see where they have space for a dumpster. Is one of my quick concerns. It's like, where does all that? How does this get picked up every single day? 20 units, 2-story building. Apparently, this does not require zoning relief. It is a is this R2 or it's zoned RA2?
Right. This is zoned RA2.
So this is matter of right, except, and the neighbor next door received neighbor notification letter, as is the process by DCRA, to let them know, give them an opportunity to put in concerns. So at this point, I'd like to hear from the neighbors. I don't want to just be hearing myself talk here. Are there neighbors here who would like to speak about this?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
I'm
And I can-
Desiree. Thank you guys so much for inviting me to this meeting.
Sure.
And Commissioner Moore, who is always supportive to my community. I am greatly concerned about this, being the adjacent neighbor. I am currently in litigation with a building next to me who patio or their penthouse looks directly into my skylight shower, to the point where they can see what kind of shampoo I use.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's very concerning. And that's only an 8-unit. They went up to 8 units from a 4-unit. I've been in this community for about 15 years. I've owned my condo. And I recognize that the community is changing, which I'm all for, but the amenities that I purchased for now are obsolete because all of these other buildings are kind of intruding on those things, and to the point where I am gonna have to pay out to make those modifications. As you can see, I'm in my living room. I have a skylight, a huge skylight in the middle of my living room, which I'm concerned of this second building having access to. I can see directly onto this patio of the adjacent building to the right of me. And I'm not gonna receive lighting with a 3-story building. That is my only window in my common space. So I lose that natural lighting. I am also concerned, our building doesn't have the underpinning. They are only underpinning to their adjacent buildings, which I'm concerned about erosion and a number of other things that we are unable to financially do in the long term. When they're gone or the building is rented out or sold off, we accrue those costs in the long head. I am concerned just overall about a project of 20 units on such a small residential street. It's going from 4 units to 20 units. That is, I mean, I am amazed that they can even submit something as a matter of a fact, and it not be something that needs to really be vetted. My commissioner will already tell you, I've been fighting for parking already. There are nights or evenings when I have to come in and I have to park way down Maryland Avenue just to come into my home. And we've been in the process of trying to get residential only parking, but the fear is that 2 people of each of those building units have 2 cars.
Right.
Where are we parking? We're gonna already be on top of each other. So those are some of my concerns. I am very worried that this is gonna become extremely costly to how I modify my own unit. which I can't afford if I'm candid, where we have these large projects that have these huge buyers and have the funding to do this stuff. I am only aware of the neighbor notification because I was unfamiliar with it now in litigation with this person. So knowing a little more about it, I want to speak to the behalf of our building and also to our community who may not be aware of just all the intricacies of what they have to follow, and speak up for that. I try to participate in our meetings because of those things now, so that I can also be a voice for our community. But I am extremely concerned about this project.
Yeah.
I'm curious, when you were, so you live in 1007.
Correct.
When the building you said that was developed a couple stories ago, did they underpin the foundation on the other side? Did they go down?
They did underpin.
Okay. So, okay, I'm just curious. And by the way, when they do that, it's really underpinning. There's kind of a shared party wall foundation. So I will just say, you guys will now have had both sides after that project is completed. But let's just say, assume it becomes more reasonable, you will have both of your foundations should be underpinned. So your building actually will have gotten a free underpinning on both sides. So I'm not sure if that allows you to do something in the future, but it is something that to keep in mind.
Well, I guess my concern is because they're underpinning and also building into those structures. Our building, we still have soil there, and there is a concern whether or not in the long term that can kind of sink that space that we have not developed, because they are developing units under there. They're laying concrete, they're doing all of that, where ours is just going to be soil from our end. And I'm not an engineer. I don't know. The logic of it just doesn't sound stable to me.
I'll say generally underpinning is a good thing because it's probably going to make your foundation stronger than it is today if it's done properly. And underpinning is done throughout the district every single day. It is I'm not saying it's something you can take a laissez-faire attitude with. It is a very serious thing. And when it's not done properly, you have buildings falling down, like on Florida Ave, like about a year ago. Was the corner of Staples in Florida, was it?
Yeah.
Where they had
on Staples.
Yeah. So if they're not professionals, they can screw up. So this is something that they do have to be very, very careful with. But there is a process, and it is done safely every day in the district. Okay. I will say, and I know you have CC'd the committee on your letters, and it is your intention to put in an objection to DCRA. And I will say, DCRA requires you to have a technical objection, as in you need to find a technical issue that is wrong with the plans. And generally, it's kind of like, it is hard unless you can hire a structural engineer who says, I see these problems X, Y, and Z here. Now there is you could ask for a snow loads analysis. That's probably something that could be you could ask them to provide that.
Can you repeat that for me? What was that?
It's a snow loads analysis. But again, I mean, I think you'd have more success just having a conversation with the developer to get the building right-sized. Because, there's, because right now, going the DCRA route, and you might still want to do that, but, we need to find out, like, what are the technical objections? What, the city does want to build, the philosophy for these units is to build up, to create more housing, because right now the city needs more housing, but 20 units on this particular lot,
it's like a lot.
It is a lot. But I worry about the fact that they're putting so much on there that they're actually leaving no room just even to have a super can out the back. I mean, 20 units would require a roll-on dumpster that should be emptied probably every 2 days for 20 units. Yeah. And I don't know how that actually works. What is their plan? That to me, I would include that in an objection, is the fact they're just not providing enough space for it to work for the neighbors. You know, you're gonna have neighbors living next door, and where do they do that?
Yeah. I mean, and I think I have a question here as to whether, I mean, it truly is a by right. You know, I know that that's how they're doing the application, but it's just so hard for me to even see those plans.
Yeah. Did you want me to share the plans again?
Yeah, if you could.
Sure.
I mean, I might just request like the digital copies from DCRA or something.
All right.
Because I know RA2 does require side setbacks and rear setbacks. You know, even if the front is not necessarily required.
Now, Marshall, I know you were looking earlier into the permit status. Is it possible to drill down to see if some of the disciplines in DCRA have already signed off, or how close, or when did they start the permitting process for this project?
I mean, I can tell you that, sorry, give me 1 second. I don't think anything has been signed off yet, based on what I gotta get back to the page.
I'm looking at it here. Yeah. It looks like it was BOEE approved it, but everything else is they've just assigned. They've assigned to the mechanical, assigned to plumbing, structural. Zoning review's been assigned. So, and they've already actually received some comments.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they started this. This was accepted on March 1st. DCRA has up to 30 business days to complete the first round of reviews. And they've already received the comment, which means at minimum now they are going to be required to submit corrections. So, and they're not allowed, they can't submit any corrections until they've received all of the comments. So I don't know how backed up DCRA is, but it could be that the structural engineer doesn't put in, you know, his or her comments until business day 30, which is, you know, the middle of April. At that point, they have to submit they have to submit the corrected plans. Of course, they only ever make the corrections that are called out. So, you know, there's definitely time, I think, for us to reach out to the developer behind the project and maybe ask them come present to the ANC, or maybe, but it might even be better for us to facilitate a separate meeting, Commissioner Moore, just to kind of like have maybe a standalone special meeting just on this. I mean, in hindsight, we probably should have invited them to this meeting to talk more about the project. You know, we don't want to cause an undue delay in their project, but this is.
So, Kevin, I'm reading the project description there. It says scope of work proposes a rear and vertical addition. Which, to me, that's a little misleading, because they're adding to the sides and to the front, and they're categorizing this as an addition to a building. So I don't know if that's the right category.
Gotcha.
Is there a way to question whether or not this plan or these proposals meet the by right? If they're trying to use verbiage that appeared to Mr. Graham's comment, if they're trying to use verbiage that appear to be by right, then no one question it or have a real thorough look into it. Is it something we can appeal, I guess, for a short, lack of a better word, appeal that this actually meets the by right regulations? I don't know what those regulations are, but maybe if we can have someone to thoroughly look at what they're proposing, maybe something to at least ensure what they're submitting. 3 additional stories is very scary to me.
Kevin, can you go back one? I think they're proposing going beyond the property line on two planes on their own design.
And it looks like they're proposing to keep the one party wall, but it doesn't look like they're keeping anything else. And so it,
Right.
I don't know if that's
It's a-
really an addition anymore.
Let me go over here.
yeah.
Now, when DCRA has changed the rules for if the work exceeds, so this is the existing building footprint, and you can see the dashed lines here.
Mhm.
Then the dash dot line is what they have labeled as the property line. And on the front and that front side,
They're removing everything. There's literally
everything is
Yeah.
beyond the property line. So how is that? I mean,
yeah.
I'm
They've,
not an expert again, but I don't know how that's allowed.
You can extend a bay window beyond a property line. That's what they're doing. They're
Okay.
defining it as bay windows, I'm sure, which is sort of been a loophole thing that you've been able to get through for a while, that they've been cracking down on a bit. So I don't know where they're landing on that exactly now.
so it looks like the only existing brick wall in the entire building is, you see this part right here?
Wow.
And this, they're keeping this wall, and then everything else is so, and maybe this is where they're trying to go through a legal loophole here, but how can anybody, this seems egregious, claim
Yeah.
that this is an addition to a building? This is a brand new.
It's a brand new.
So I guess.
And I was just going to add, Kevin, a new building of this size with 20 units requires 1 parking space for every 3 units. So that would be 6 to 7 parking spaces. And so they're kind of getting around that requirement.
Wow.
They're only providing 2 parking spaces, so that, something this size wouldn't actually be possible.
Is
That's
the wall here, the longer existing party wall, is that our building wall that they're maintaining?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
so now, is it, if we were to push them on this and submit a letter from even the ANC into DCRA, I mean, this seriously cannot be considered an addition. This is a new building in every way, shape, or form. They're not keeping a single stick. I mean, because this whole, this is going to be all new. They'll probably do brick masonry here.
Mhm. Yeah.
And
And I don't see a raise application. We get the notices, and I'm just looking through my email,
Mm.
and I don't see a raise application for this address.
So I guess that would be, so Andrew, do you, I mean, you guys are the architects. Is there a rule that we can point to the DCRA looks at and follows, where they say this is an addition versus this is new construction?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, zoning has different rules for each. And so I'm not an expert with it, but just through the parking requirements, a new building is going to have different parking requirements than an existing building with an addition.
Hmm.
And the definitions, I think they're under the existing building code as opposed to IBC, where they define what a level 1, level 2, level 3 and alterations are versus an addition, which I don't know that this would necessarily fall under the definition of an addition, because you're keeping none of it, but not counting the party wall, which you can't take down because it's a party wall.
On which they're underpinning anyway. Like I can't imagine anything there's nothing of this building will remain.
Excuse me, I'm holding up my phone because I'm trying to use it to zoom in and see if I can read the.
You can zoom in if you want. What would you like me to look at?
I'm just looking at the setbacks on the rear and the side.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, and Desiree, to answer your initial question, they do have a zoning reviewer as part of the building review. So it's been assigned, but there's nothing on the actual review. So that's who's looking for the by right and not by right to see that it fits within the zoning.
Mhm.
To answer your original question.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I will say that I have seen a case in recent years where they've made a mistake in approving something, and then you do have 30 days to challenge.
But it's definitely a lot easier for us to help our, you know,
Yeah,
our colleagues at DCRA to alert them to the fact that this probably does not meet the definition of an addition.
right. Yes.
And it's a bit worrying. This is my own just notion. It just almost seemed predatory that, you know, because a lot of our community, people who've been in the community for years are just unaware of what we supposed to say, who we supposed to make comments to. So like when they use verbiage that we're just unfamiliar with, or they send us these plans that we don't have a clue what we're really truly looking at.
Yeah.
And again, I only know because I just experienced another once the building is up problem where it's nothing I can do about it. To just kind of get in front of this, to just kind of voice my concerns, and hopefully, you know, they'll be heard, and that the builder would be willing to help work with us to make the appropriate accommodations that seem appropriate for our building and for the community.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing we could do is we could, at minimum, we have the name of the architect here, and we have the name of the developer. So we ourselves we should email DCRA and notify them that we have concerns of how this building being considered an addition. We could also reach out to the architect and the developer and say, could you please explain to us in writing how you came to the conclusion that this is an addition? And just, you know, like give them an opportunity to explain to themselves. And the faster we do that, you know, obviously they want to move forward with a project sooner rather than later. So I think it's everyone's best interest that we help them get to their solution sooner. Look at that. Scope of work proposes a rear and vertical addition to an existing 4-unit. Exterior wall for the most part. 5-cellar. 3-story vertical addition at existing footprint. But that's not true.
That's not true.
That's just not, I mean,
Yeah.
they say that, and these aren't considered bay windows, right? These aren't like projections. The actual foundation they're pouring is
Right.
going out to here, right?
Right.
These aren't.
They're stretching it.
These are not cantilevered out over the project, right? It's kind of hard to see here, but like this looks.
Yeah, why are these pictures so poor?
It's a scan. It's not the actual.
Yeah.
Oh,
So it's a PDF of a scan. Yeah, I mean I have seen people, you know, you can have bay windows that project beyond further than the. Oh, look at this. This is the BRL. So they've actually also. So I can tell you right now, like this, they're projecting this, and it's called is it an areaway projection when you build something forward of the building restriction line?
I don't know.
Like if you walk through Capitol Hill, and you'll often notice a lot of the houses have this appearance where they have a bay window that projects a little, kind of an octagon, half an octagon shape. That's because the BRL was at the front door, and that was the trick the architects all used when those homes were built. So you are allowed to build a little bit of the building beyond the BRL. And that's, the BRL is actually, this whole section here is beyond the BRL. Let me find if I can go back to this view here. It's right here. And that's why it kind of stops. So they can have this portion of it, and they can have this portion of it. I don't know if the BRL extends down this street here. Actually, it may. And I'm guessing the architect is being intelligent. If they had just done this 100% of the side, it would not have been allowed. But they're allowed to have a certain percentage of it. I don't know what percentage is considered okay, but do we have any other, you know, are there any neighbors or in attendance who would like to speak to the project?
you know.
So let's think about what are the we've got a hand raised. Hey, Andrew.
Sorry, can I jump in with a question to clarify that? Are you saying the parking minimums don't apply if it's classified as an addition, but they would apply if it's a new structure? Just so I understood
Yeah, I just pulled up,
implications there.
I just pulled up the minimum vehicle parking requirements online, and there's a chart, there's a table, and the table applies to when a new building is constructed. So I would interpret that to be if it's an addition, it's not going to apply.
Got it.
And that's 3. What was the requirement? It was 1 parking space per 3. And is that for RA2? Is that that's the requirement for RA2?
Yes, and yes, that's for 1 for every 3 above 4 units.
And that's for all of the RA zones, I believe. It's that same ratio.
So, and my guess is if this was considered a new building, then they would need to, they could still potentially build a building. They would just need to go through a zoning relief process like the BZA, which
Right.
actually might be the appropriate thing, because that does require a lot more communication with the adjoining neighbors to be sure that everyone is, to be sure that that building meets, the philosophy of what the city wants. Like, we do want more construction, but it has to, be reasonable.
Yeah.
Oh, we've got some comments in the chat. Sorry, I might have missed some stuff. Oh, it's all Andrew. This is Andrew. No, oh, thank you. Let's have a look. Who is? So this is your SMD Commissioner Moore, right?
It is.
So, I think is the deadline. Believe the deadline was today, but it does seem like
We have an extension until the 1st, I believe.
okay.
Is that right? Is Desiree still on the line?
Have it until April.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It asks us to do it as soon as possible, but they said that they have extended it to April the 1st.
Okay.
Desiree, could you reach out to them to find out who is the assigned zoning reviewer for this project?
Yeah.
It'd be nice to get a dialogue going with them. I mean, if we just think they're straight up wrong, the ANC could, sometimes if D3 just sees that the ANC is submitting letters, and that if they see that we're paying attention, then they might take a closer look. But they definitely need to justify to us how this extent and scope of work could ever be considered an addition.
You know what I think might be helpful here is if I sent that note.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'll send that. I'm on that group email.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll do that tonight.
Now we've got about 10 minutes left, and we can keep it. I want to give. Are there other items that people would like to discuss? I know there's other big projects that have been proposed. There's a project. There's the 1900 Fenwick, because the PUD has come up. I know a lot of people are interested in, might want to talk about that because of how it may affect Crumble School. Are there other items that neighbors would like to discuss or have concerns about? Okay. Well, just to give folks, there's a PUD planned for the Profish lot at 1900 Fenwick. That is, in general, I think that building is about 10 feet lower height than the Hex building next door. There's a lot to like about the design of the building. I think what is making a lot of neighbors really concerned is that I think a few years ago, there was was it a map amendment case submitted for 3 adjoined lots. That lot, the church lot next door, I put that in quotations because it's a large warehouse. It doesn't seem like a place that people attend church, and the Crummell School site to upzone them. The Crummell School site is owned by the District of Columbia. So, and the community, there's the 1900 Fenwick lot is a PUD. Literally 1 minute walk south of that, also on Fenwick, there's another planned PUD. There's a lot of new neighbors, a lot of large construction is being proposed, with the assumption we will have a lot of new future neighbors. So then where's the community services, such as like a rec center or a playground for kids?
Right.
So that's why we are so focused on that Crummell School, not suddenly, for historical purposes, that site needs to be not just preserved, but like championed. But we don't want them suddenly to go into that site and chop it up so we're only just getting the building. Like there needs to be green and parking space, because all of these neighbors who are going to be living in these 13-story PUDs need a place, to go. So
Kevin, I think we talked, or we were exchanging texts, kind of brain melding during the last ANC meeting. And I'm glad to see that Parissa is on this call as well. I think the Crummell School situation has dramatically shifted in the last couple of weeks, because they're exactly what you're talking about. The PUDs in Ivy City, I think, reshape the argument drastically, that not only is it a necessity, but there's potential commercial interest in that project going forward as a community center. Like the PUDs benefit from that happening. So I think it is in this moment, I think a lot of these moments can kind of come and go if you're not careful, but to leverage the interest in the mixed use development in Ivy City to move the needle on efforts to get Crummell School across the finish line, essentially with dedicated funding. And that might be a mixture of kind of good faith donations from the PUDs and the district, or it could just make the district fucking do something. Whatever it is, I think there's a lot of things that have changed now versus the last 10, 15 years of conversations about Crummell School. So I think that that's something that needs to be talked about a lot more.
It does need to be talked about a lot more, because he's doing 1900 Fenwick Street. Then the House of Prayer is right next to it. They'll be doing a PUD there, and then they'll move over to the Crummell School, and they're not coming to the residents. He literally went and tried to get change on the map. He the one went to go get changes to the map. He didn't come to the residents, nor did he come to the ANC.
Yeah.
And
Are you talking about Greg?
We are through on March 26th with DEMPED, and we would love everyone to come and join us at 4:00 on the 26th of March. DEMPED is coming to do a walkthrough, because what we're realizing is a lot of the elected officials, they're just coming to the smokehouse. They're not seeing the community like we see it. So, like I said in the hearing today, the Office of Planning, they're planning, but they're not looking out for the residents. They're looking out for the developers. And that's what's going on here in Ivy City.
So I'll say a few things, which is that I think this is an opportunity for us in a very real way. And I think we've got to be a bit sharper about how we're negotiating the PUDs going forward, on these other projects, especially considering the ownership interests. Mm-hmm. So I think that this actually, in a very real way, puts us in a better position in terms of negotiating, and that we should make every single effort possible to take advantage of that. I mean, that's just, I think kind of from my perception, I'm seeing people say, here's our offer for our PUD. And then, just in the history of this ANC overall, there have been some times when we really underperformed in terms of negotiating around community benefits packages in the past, and now some of those projects are actually coming to fruition. Like you take, 1701 in my area, that's before my time, but it's being built now. And the original negotiation just wasn't a particularly strong one. So I think, my suggestion is to learn from that, and really kind of push in a serious way. If you see this all coming online at the same time, say, okay, well, what we want is your support on this, and make him put it in writing and get concrete steps and concrete things in place before you sign off on the PUD. Because also there's the issue that a lot of ANCs are having where, okay, we agreed to some things, but now you have your permits and you're not, you're not inclined to do those things anymore.
Andrew Grimberg had a question in the chat. Have we asked for that? And we have I think at the last ANC meeting at the zoning committee, we did actually ask them, hey, would you take a stand on this? And their attorney basically clammed up and will not say a word. And I think that is an issue. Like, we like to think that things are changing, but I think it was one single law firm put in the upzoning case for all three of those lots. So what's happening is they want to now submit one PUD at a time, which allows, in and of itself, a single application may look okay. But if they were to actually put in all of them, it would allow us to, you could see, does this make sense for an integrated community? Like, are they taking a holistic approach to planning how what will this look like in 10 years? And if, there needs to be neighbor space, the green space for people to enjoy. So I do think, I'm not sure, like, if I make a question for Commissioner Moore, like, somebody needs to be the lead negotiator and basically put it to them and say, this is what we need. And if you don't give us this, we're going to fight you. And we may need to get, we may need to be going to every single meeting where council member McDuffie and ask questions, raise our hand, like, what is your support behind this? Like, we need to be loud about this. We may need to ask the city paper to do some stories on this. Like, there's been a lot of development. Most of the PUDs have now been decided for around Union Market. We're going to see nothing but construction in Ivy City for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
Now is when we need to be making these demands. And
right. I agree completely. And I think, Commissioner Rhodes and I had some conversation about, making sure to engage our attorney. And so I did go ahead and sign off for some initial hours, but, this is why we have a lawyer. I'm not an attorney, but I do know how to call one. And so, so now, I know an opportunity when I see one. I know when there are better hands to be steering the ship. And I think this is absolutely one of those times. And I just cannot stress enough how important it is to recognize the leverage that we have in this situation and get our attorney involved and do a very good job of negotiating exactly what it is we want for ourselves. And I will say this about the Office of Planning, some people can't plan for what they don't understand. They can't make plans for what they don't know. And so I think anything that you can do, as the commissioner for Ivy City, and this is specifically to Commissioner Rhodes, because I know you've done a lot to have contacts and helping them see your perspective. You have every authority to set up a meeting with them. And if you feel like you're not in a position to express yourself in the terms that they use, or that, you know, in the best way that you want to. We got a lawyer, and she's very experienced in that kind of thing. And she can, you know, she can attend and say, look, you know, this is the tools that I know you have available because I'm experienced in this area. But I would say to, you know, my suggestion is to be very aggressive about, not aggressive as in angry, but aggressive as in not letting the grass grow under your feet, in terms of how you move forward on an opportunity like this.
We had a neighbor, Berlin, raised his hand.
Yeah, can I say something?
Please do.
Yeah, my name is, well, I guess my name is on the screen. I'm sorry I'm late. I just got through typing up a statement for the comp plan engagement that is supposed to happen on Saturday. But based on the little bit that I heard so far, I think you guys are on the right track. And if there is a lawyer that's available, that is, and that lawyer's experience in this kind of dilemma that we're in, that's leverage in itself. So all of that sounds really good. That's all I want to say.
You raised a good point. Are there some comprehensive plan, like committee meetings coming up where neighbors can submit testimony? Because it is good when you have an audience of all the city council members there and you can scream loudly, because things have changed a lot. I attended some of the comprehensive plan meetings a few years back, but that was before, like, I mean, the amount of PUDs being submitted right now for Ivy City is mind-boggling. And it really seems like they're doing it piecemeal and they're not looking at everything.
Well, that's why I just submitted a statement in regards to the comp plan. I may be ignorant to it, but I've read some of it, and I started out by saying that the whole document should be discarded because, you know, it's very ambiguous, and I think it's done like that on purpose because if something anywhere in that document is adopted for whatever plan is being proposed by whoever, the investors or so forth, anybody can change the philosophy or the intent of anything that is printed in that document to suit their own purpose. So, you know, it's not clear. You know, it's been around for a long time, and as far as I know, it hasn't proven itself to be successful in any instance, you know, in the city's history. So I could be wrong about that, but let me know.
Does anyone know if there's any oversight hearings for Office of Planning coming up? Because that's an opportunity for neighbors can just come and, I mean, if we think Office of Planning is not doing a good enough job planning Ivy City.
Yeah, I'll say this. I don't know for a fact whether the oversight hearing has passed or not, but I can look that up. I know that the budget hearing has not happened yet. Okay, so I see Parisa said that was today. Yeah, but the budget hearing is still coming up, and people care about their money.
Yeah, the hearing is Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Is it?
And that's on the comp plan hearing, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you,
I'm looking at the hearings, the
submitted
meetings and hearing
to-
schedule online, and I do not see anything listed for this Saturday, the 20th.
Okay. The Saturday
Empower
meeting,
DC.
Parisa is saying is an Empower DC meeting.
Oh, okay.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. That's okay. I know and she says Mendelson will be there. I know that the budget hearing for the Office of Planning is upcoming still. So they just haven't started those yet.
Well,
when we testify, just something I want to throw in, we testify so much And nothing has changed. The only thing that's going to change these developers is the leverage that we have. Going to the oversight hearing, although it's on record, they don't change. And when you go back into the past and look at different things that were done, like here in Ivy City, we've been asking for the same thing here for 40 years. For 40 years, and they don't see it. They have public comment everywhere that recreation and green space is needed in Ivy City, and they continue to bring lounges and clubs and alcoholic venues to Ivy City instead of having them renovate Cromell.
Yeah.
And that's what we need, and they know that. But they go
Wait.
all the way around it, and we do all of the hearings, all of the meetings, everything, and they still don't listen. It's like, who is running these agencies?
Yeah, I mean, I have a few thoughts here, which is one, previously, and this is not, last commission that I was on, but prior to my even being on the commission, the conversation around Cromell was very different at that time. The commission, but prior to my joining, supported these developments without questions about community resources and support. And I think in a very real way, getting those things on the record, damaged the case that the community is making now. So, I mean, that's just kind of the history of it. Now, elections matter. We've had 2 consecutive commissioners who have been supportive of Cromell, but I think that the approach needs to be kind of not aggressive in the mean way, but aggressive in the, like, this is very specific in what we're asking for. And we have the right people working on it and the right language as to what the request is. And I think that there are, in addition to the things I mentioned earlier, other things that we could be doing with the Office of Planning. Even if you go, they are an agency just like any other agency. And you as the ANC commissioner have every authority to walk in there and say, okay, this is what I want. Now they can say for whatever reasons, this is how we're willing to move forward. This is what we have the budget for, what have you. But I think we should, in addition to everything we talked about with our attorneys on these PUDs and the leverage there, the other side of that is if you want a small area plan, because that's what these other communities are doing and how they're so effective in dealing with the Office of Planning, because it's not just the comp plan, it's the zoning map. So go in there and we can draft some language to say, look, ANC 5D supports a small area plan being developed, for the Ivy City community, because we're interested in seeing green spaces. We're interested in, all of these things. It's a heat island. We know there are issues. Let's come up with a plan on how to address them. And I think that, it's a lot harder to ignore kind of that very specific request as opposed to, all of the complaints and issues that we know are out there. And just package it that way. Look, what we want is a small area plan. And I don't think any of the commission would oppose that. Having an actual plan on how to move forward. And if that includes changes to the comprehensive plan, that's one thing. If that includes zoning map changes, I've been through that process. It's doable, but I think we would really benefit by making very specific requests of people. And then the fact of these new PUDs, that creates a lot of leverage. So it's just it's a pressure campaign from all sides.
Yeah.
I want to call out, Parisa has posted in the chat log, the meeting on Saturday, it's 1 to 3 p.m. and she posted a link to register. Having an opportunity to have your voice heard and just him seeing the council chairperson see a room filled of people demanding this is, that's an opportunity we shouldn't pass up. I just registered. As many of us as possible should attend that meeting. And I'm not sure if anyone has any contacts in the chairman's office, but I think it would be nice if he got a tour of just walking around Crumble School so he understands what needs to be done. It can't just be a school bus parking lot anymore. It's disrespectful. But we do need to be very loud and press him that some funding, he can push on, he has the power to push OP to do a small area plan for Ivy City.
Yeah.
He is the most powerful person. Sometimes I think he's more powerful than the mayor because he controls the city council. So
Yeah.
Saturday is an opportunity, and we should avail ourselves of that. And
Yeah.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Reese is leading the charge. And
yeah, and I saw that comment. I think the place to have that small area plan discussion is at a meeting, as at a separate meeting with OP. I guess that's the real kind of crux of my suggestion.
I agree.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I have gone 20 minutes over my, actually no, only 10 minutes over my allotment.
Sorry.
Does anyone, oh no, it's all right, but I just try to be respectful of people's time. Does anyone have any last minute I forgots or comments? We can say another 5 minutes if folks want, but I do want to be respectful of everyone's time. Well, that wraps up the March Zoning and Development Committee meeting. I really appreciate the committee members for attending and your expertise on architecture and zoning matters. And I hope the neighbors who attend this get something out of this, and really appreciate us looking out for one another. And I hope everyone is being safe. One final thing. The mayor sent out a notice last night. They want every single person to pre-register for their vaccines. The more of us, even regardless of your risk posture, they want everybody pre-registering for the vaccine, because the bigger that wait list is, the more pressure, the more leverage the mayor has to get more vaccines for the city. So regardless, if you don't have a pre-existing health condition, the mayor sent out a notice last night encouraging everyone to go pre-register for the vaccine. I did it. Everyone should be doing it. There's no excuse. Just get on the list, and that'll help give some leverage so we can get some more vaccines faster into the city.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Cheers, everybody. I think it's what Commissioner Moore, is it coronavirus? Is it vaccine.dc.gov? What's the website for the
coronavirus.dc.gov/vaccinate.
Yeah.
And I think the website to pre-register is vaccinate.dc.gov. You scroll down to the bottom of the page, and there's a green button that says get pre-registered here. So whether you work or live in DC, you can go pre-registered and get in line.
Yeah.
All right. Cheers, everybody. Be safe.